Okay, so we're going to be looking at Hela today, not Loki, and this just shows the zenithal highlighting I've done for both miniatures using a grey primer on all the miniature, and then from about a 45-degree angle from around the top, spraying white onto it. Now, the quality of the sprays I used aren't good. They've been left for a while, and I think it's shown, and we've got a kind of speckled result on the miniature itself. Now, by eye you can't really see it, but you will be seeing it through this video. You will see that it does come through when I do paint it. I'm hoping to get a Rathbone Citadel spray paint, which I'm just going to solely use. I'm going to move away from zenithal. I think, to be honest, as long as if you're doing the washes and the layering that I do on this video, then the zenithal's good to spot the details, and it does come through. But just for ease of use, just a one coat spray of Rathbone. It does show the details well. It's not pure white. It gives nice warm colours. So I'm going to start using that. I've assembled the Marvel Crisis Protocol Hela. It's okay. It's relatively, compared to a lot of the ones that I've assembled, this one's really not too bad at all. Really, really nice pose. I love this miniature, and she's actually an amazing character to boot. So, fantastic model, which has been really a joy to paint. And I'm looking forward to Loki next as well. So I'm going to be using Citadel Paints, and I'll go through the different paints I use for this particular model. I use a wet palette as well, of course, to blend and make the colours I need using those paints. So the colours that I use on the miniature aren't necessarily the exact colours from the pot. Obviously I've mixed those, and I'll talk about those on each stage. This video is actually photos, so I'll talk about each stage as we go through them. And it's about a 12-minute video altogether, so not too long. So with them primed and all ready to go, we move on to the first stage. I tend to do the light shades first, and I tend to do skin as my first port of call. So the very first one we're going to use is Kislev Flesh and Screamer Skull. The Kislev gives it quite a dark tone for skin, so I think just mixing in a little bit of Screaming Skull just to make it a little bit lighter, as you can see in this picture here. So the only bit of skin showing on Hela is her face, which is below the mask. Now, it's very, very important to water down your paints. So using a wet palette is brilliant because it kind of does that for you. You still need to probably just add a little bit of water, especially when you're mixing paints for the first time. But the beauty of wet palette is that they will keep the colours moist, and so you can use them again days after you've created those colours and you've blended them, mixed them. It is a must. I would say it's a must. A wet palette's a must. I bought mine on Amazon. I'll try and find it and put a link in the description if I can, even though it was over a year ago. And it was about £12, I think, and you get the tray. Obviously, you get a few sheets of the absorbing paper that you put that basically absorbs all the water and keeps everything moist, and then you have basically like baking paper is the best way to think of it, baking sheets, but it's obviously bespoke for painting. And you get sheets of those. They've all been cut to size, so you don't have to worry about that. But that's all you need. You can, people have made homemade versions of wet palettes, and you can actually use. I think you can use baking paper as effectively the sheet that you put the paint on and you mix it with, and then you can just use like kitchen roll. I guess would be fine. Anything that would hold water is what you need. So kitchen roll should be fine. You just completely soak it, put the paper over the top, and then you mix the paint on top of it. But for the cost of like £10 to £12, that's British. It's not too expensive for something that's really, really useful. So we've been careful to just let that's two coats of that mix, and I would say mostly Kislev. Right, for the next stages, for the rest of the stages, we've got War Boss Green, Keralig Purple, and Uriel Yellow from Citadel range. So I start with the green. So this is pure. That green, I haven't mixed it at all. I didn't need to mix it with anything else. This is just the colour as it comes. And I've painted the cloak and the trim of her outfit, as well as the headpiece, the few bits from the headpiece. Now I do go over, unfortunately, the part of the headpiece, so I have to retouch that up. But effectively doing this allows me to kind of see where the purple needs to go. I'm happy with this color. I think it matches the card art of the from the game, and that's what I base my paintings on, is the card art. So I look at the card art and I use the colors from that. I do use, you'll see it in a bit, I do use a slightly lighter purple than perhaps what is on thing, but I'm really happy with the results. Okay, so the kind of flame, the aura flame, which is obviously coming from the base as well as from her arms, that I use the same green, but I mixed in that yellow. So I've mixed in the yellow to give this kind of luminous green, I guess is the best way to think of it. And then I've painted on 2 coats of that onto the miniature. Now you can quite clearly see that mottled effect that the primer has created there. I wasn't too happy about that. It's not ideal. If you use a decent primer, I think it won't happen like that. I think it's because it's left, the droplets are too big. Right, so moving on to the next stage, which is filling in the purple of Hela, which is basically everything else that I haven't painted, including her head, headdress, and obviously her outfit, as well as the spear. All the same colour. According to the card art, it's all the same colour, which is nice and easy. I like it when you don't have to use too many colours and no metals and things like that. You'll notice I've gone over some bits of the green. Next comes the washes. So this is all the wash. So I've used I should have put the washes in the description. I've used the flesh tone for her flesh and for the purple, and I've used green tone for the cloak, the flame, and all the rest of it. So I've just 1 coat over all of it, just doing all of that wash work. So this suddenly darkens everything. So obviously the next stage is to use layering and start to build up those colours of the miniature again, which we'll move on to next. But as you can see, it's starting to take shape now. The washes have kind of put dark lining between the green and the purple, which is quite nice. But the flame has lost its kind of radiance. That's something we're really going to tie on in a bit. So the base is done now with contrast paints. And what I've done here is the purple. I've focused on the purple here and the face. So the purple, I've used several layers to start to highlight that purple, going back to that same purple colour that I used from before, which is straight out of the bottle again. I didn't have to mix that. But then just adding a little bit of white to it to give the proper highlights as I go through. The face, same thing again, just adding that screaming skull every so often to build up the layers, and just hitting like the end of the nose, the chin, and the cheeks, so to give it a little bit of gradient. Now the top of this is a bit out of focus, but this is the green work for the cloak and the detail on the outfit. So again, I've painted over that a couple of layers, just touch highlighting some of the edges of the green, especially the cloak. Spent a bit of time on the cloak, quite a few layers, just making sure using really watered down paint. Don't go thick on the layering, or else it will shine. And now we move on to the flames. So now I've touched back up the flames. You'll notice there's a few white splashes on that top flame that I do work on and remedy in the next photo. As I said before, I've also lost the green detail on the headpiece there. I will again put that back on as the video goes on in the next stages. But as you can see here, lots of layering on the flame to make it really pop and bring back that. I love that colour. Bring back that really luminous green colour. So again, that's keeping that same green, but just mixing in some of the yellow at a time. And basically, as you go up to the the smaller and smaller highlight areas, you just add in a little bit more yellow each time. I would say probably about 5 layers. I think I did probably 5 different tones of that green on the layering to achieve those results. And I think it just gives a really nice kind of glow. What you'll also see if you look carefully, I watered down the base green that was on the flame really quite a lot, and I just went over that on the base as well as her legs, anywhere that was near the flame itself, her arms. So you see that slight tinge. I didn't want it to be too strong. I just want it to be, just a tint towards that colour, just to show that kind of glow, as it were. I've definitely seen people do this a lot better in terms of the glow. But I just wanted to keep the miniature that kind of like pristine colour as best as I could. I just wanted that hint of the glow on there. So now we're pretty much done. I did a few little touch-ups, including those white parts and the helmet. And then we'll move on to the final model in 1 second. So this is the final one. I also did the eyes, of course, which were white. The green's back on the headdress there, and the white parts have gone. I just touched up a little bit on some edge highlighting, especially on the helmet, to finish off. So there's the front view, and you can see I really like the dark lining as well. And the cloak I was really, really pleased with. Again, it's just the more layers you take, the more time you take, the better the result. And that's from behind as well. I really like the flame effect as well. So that's Hela using Citadel Paints, and just using base, wash and highlight.